Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Patrick Zoll, and I'm the East Asia correspondent of the Swiss newspaper Neue Zürcher Zeitung. The two people sitting next to me this afternoon, I don't think I need to introduce them to you. Shigeru and Sakia Yokota are, I must say, famous in Japan as the parents of Megumi Yokota, who was abducted in 1977. They had the pleasure to meet their granddaughter and great-grandchild 2 weeks ago, and that's the main reason why they're here today to talk to us about that. Mr. Yokota will give a very short introduction about what they did in this past about 2 weeks or so, and then we open the floor to questions and answers. Before I forget, please turn off your mobile phones so we're not disturbed. So, please, Mr. Yokota.
すみません。皆様ようこそお越しいただきました。私はゾールと申します。スイス、の新聞の、記者でございます。今日の、お二人でいらっしゃいますが、非常に有名な方たちでございますので、ご紹介する、しなくても皆さんよくご存知だと思います。横田茂様、横田早紀江様、1979年に北朝鮮にいらされた横田めぐみさんのご両親ということでございます。皆様のご存知の通り、2週間、前に、海外で、そのめぐみさんの、娘さん、そして、孫、になる、赤ちゃんに会えたということでございます。この簡単なその経緯について横田様の方から、茂様の方から、ご説明がございまして、その後質疑応答に移りたいと思います。
Unfortunately, I forgot two things. I forgot to introduce Takamatsu-san, our translator, and I forgot what I forgot, so to say.
あとすみません、携帯電話をお持ちの方、マナーモードあるいはその、に切り替えていただく、電源を切っていただければと思います。
はい、横田茂でございます。3月の11日、月曜日ですが、この日から14日3月14日までの5日間、モンゴルのウランバートルに行きまして、そこでウンギョンさんの家族と面会することができました。それで北朝鮮も初めから拉致っていうのは否定してましたんですが、2002年の9月に拉致を認めて、そしてめぐみは死亡というふうに言ってきました。そしてウンギョンさんがテレビに現れて、中学生なんですけど、実際はちょっと中山さんよなんかもおっしゃってますけど、小学生みたいな感じの小さな女の子が来て、おじいちゃんおばあちゃんに会いたいと。それででもこちらの方では国内でも自由に旅行ができないので、おじいさんとおばあさんがこちらに来てくださいっていうようなことを言ってました。しかしその時にもし行くと結局夫が出てきて、いやもう死ねましたみたいなことに決めつけて、もうそれでも終わりになると思ったので、それはいずれは行ってみたいと思いましたけど、北朝鮮に行くことはしませんでした。しかし最近になりますとめぐみが拉致されてからもう37年目に入っております。そしてもう49歳ですから、今年の誕生日でくれば50歳になります。しかし
So I'd like to give you just a brief rundown of what has happened in the last couple of weeks. On March 10th, between March 10th and March 14th, over a 5-day period, my wife and I went to Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, and we were able to meet members of our family. In other words, the daughter of Megumi, our daughter, and her daughter. In other words, our great-granddaughter. As you know, in September of 2002, after many, many years when North Korea denied that any abductions had taken place, the North Korean government changed its policy and admitted or that abductions had in fact taken place. It also mentioned our daughter by name, Megumi, and said that she had died in the intervening years. At the same time, we saw footage of a young girl who was eventually found out to be our granddaughter, Miss Eun-jun, and she was explained as being a junior high school student. However, she looked to us very, very small in stature. In fact, Ms. Nakayama, who was a representative of the government in charge of the abduction issues, saw her directly and said that she looked more like an elementary school student than a junior high school student. In any event, this young lady sent a video message saying basically that she wanted very, very much to meet her grandparents, in other words, us, but that she was limited in being able to travel freely throughout her own country and therefore could not travel abroad to meet us. She therefore asked that we go and visit her. Of course, we were very, very tempted. We wanted to see her very, very much, but at the same time, we feared that if we went to North Korea, it might be that Megumi's husband would come out and say, again, in a very forceful way, that Megumi had passed away. In other words, it would be a way for the North Korean government to be able to prove or basically bring this Megumi issue to a closure, saying that she had passed away. Therefore, we decided to forego visiting North Korea, and we have kept from visiting North Korea for many, many years. However, we realized that time had passed. It's actually the 37th year since Megumi was abducted, and she's 49 years old. This year's birthday, she will turn 50 years old. We thought it was perhaps time.
それで北朝鮮側はめぐみが死亡と言ってたんですが、特にその段階では特別ななんて言いますか、証拠は出ませんでしたが、2004年に子供を連れてくるために2002年の5月に日朝の交渉が行われて、でその後政府はもう少しいるはずだから調べてほしいということで向こうがそれを了承したわけですが、11月になって3回目の交渉の時にめぐみのいろんな品物なんかと他に白いテーブルクロスに包んだ紙のような遺骨を提供してきました。その時は本人だということを知らせるためにお父さんとそれからちっちゃなウンギョンさんが来たわけです。それでそれを受け取っても我々としては本物かどうかっていうのは分かりませんから、それは一旦裁判所の許可を取って新潟県警がそれを受け取って、そしてDNA 鑑定を行いました。それが12月8日の日に結論が出たわけですが、しかしそれは2種類の男性の DNA が出て、めぐみのものとは全く別物でしたから、それはなんて言いますか、めぐみのものではないということは生存している可能性は強いと思っています。それで今被害者の家族で夫婦ともが残っているのは私と有本さんのところだけです。で一番若いのが先で、私が2番目に若いんです。といってももう81歳ですから、今年になってからも松木さんのお母さんが亡くなってますから、やっぱりあんまり長く待っているとこちらの方がもう死亡してしまう恐れもありますし、それでもう今回行くことに踏み切りました。
So, in 2002, Too, when the North Korean government said that Megumi had passed away, they did not provide any evidence or proof to back up their claim. However, in 2004, there were a series of negotiations between the North Korean and Japanese government. This was a time when some of the abductees had been returned, and now there were some negotiations that were ongoing to try to bring the children of these abductee couples to Japan as well. And in November of 2004, when as the negotiations were continuing, the Japanese government made repeated requests to the North Korean government to please investigate the situation of the abductees further, including the situation of Megumi-san. And in November, this was the third round of negotiations. The North Korean side brought to the Japanese side some objects that they said had belonged to Megumi, just some things that she had used, etc. And then in something that looked like a large tablecloth, a very big piece of fabric, there were some remains, bones, that were purported to be of Megumi-san, and they had been presented by Megumi's husband and little Ungyeon-san, the granddaughter, who was still a very small child at that time. We did not know whether we should accept such material, but we worked through the courts, and it was decided that the Niigata Prefectural Police Department, because this is where Megumi-san had originally been abducted, would take charge of these remains. And the remains were then submitted for a DNA test. And on November 8th, the results of that test was made public, and it was discovered that there were some DNA remnants that were identified, but they belonged to a male, not a female. In other words, we believe that the conclusion was that this was not Megumi-san's remains, and as a result, the probability is very, very high that she is still alive. Another thing that we took into consideration this time is that of the abductee families, there are only two couples that remain that are the parents of the abductees. In other words, my wife and myself, and also the Mr. and Mrs. Arimoto. And of these, in other words, all of the other abductees, their parents, if they have any surviving parent, it's only a single parent. Having said this, however, of the four of us, Sakie, my wife, is the youngest, and I am the second youngest, and still I'm 81 years old. Also, as of this year, Mr. Matsuki's mother passed away. In other words, we felt very, very strongly that we didn't have that much time, and so that was one of the biggest reasons that led to our deciding to visit our granddaughter.
最後にしますけど、それで私たちが言ったことをきっかけに日朝間のなんていうんですか、交流が高まったということにもなるわけですけど、初め来月4月になったら日朝交渉を始めて、その中で拉致の問題についても交渉しようっていうようなことになったんですけど、結局それが縮まってもう3月中に開始をするっていうことになりましたから、やっぱり我々が言ったことによって多少はいい結果になったのかなと思っております。
Another thing is that we felt that by taking this action, it might lead to a kind of a sort of stimulus in restarting cordial exchange between the Japanese government and the North Korean government. And as a result, as you know, there were scheduled in April North Korean and Japanese government officials who were going to start negotiating about various issues, including the abducted issues. However, that schedule has been moved forward a little bit. It's going to start in end of March. As a result, for all of these reasons, I believe that